Hello, everyone, and welcome to another vodcast. We still haven't really decided what we're calling these, but talking about movies with the Film Yap. I'm Christopher Lloyd, and I'm joined here today by a bunch of friends. I've got Alec Toombs of Grade A Movies,
Morning.
Andy Carr of the Film Yap and Odd Trilogies podcast,
Howdy.
and Bob Bloom of RealBob.com.
Howdy.
So we're here today to talk about Wonder Woman 1984, which just came out yesterday as we're recording this. And we've, I believe, all managed to see the movie either by hook or by crook. A lot of disappointment out there about the film. But Alec, why don't I start with you, since this actually was your idea to kind of do a round robin about this. You actually got to see it in a big screen theater yesterday. What was your take?
I enjoyed the movie quite a bit. I don't think it's as good as the first one, but seeing it in Dolby Cinema, I think probably helped the film. It certainly is a callback to superhero movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It kind of felt like Richard Donner's Superman or some of the movies we saw before superhero movies became so popular. So as a throwback, I enjoyed it.
Okay. And Andy, you handled the official review for the Film Yap. I believe you gave it 3 out of 5 yaps. So how did you land on the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think Alec's right. It's definitely at least attempting kind of a throwback to the classic sort of goofy, upbeat superhero movie. I think it sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. I think it kind of waffles back and forth between wanting to be that kind of campy, schlocky throwback and like wanting to be taken seriously. And sometimes it works being taken seriously, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it works being goofy, sometimes it doesn't. It's just kind of it's a mixed bag for me. But you know, this time of year, it's fun to just have a big movie that's like fun and upbeat, and sometimes that's kind of enough.
Yeah. All right, Bob. I'm trying to remember how many stars or what score you gave it on your review.
2.5 out of 4.
So kind of middling. It sounds like about like Andy.
Yeah, it was I enjoyed it, but I also found it rather frivolous. And it was, I don't know, it just didn't match up. And I know this is an unfair comparison, but it did not match up to the first movie at all. It was, I don't know, its tone, like Andy said, it was a little campy here, tried to be straight there. So it just never found its solid footing.
I'm kind of about with you guys. I like Alec. I like the parts of it that I thought were well done. I thought it really started slow. The first 45 minutes or so, and so much talking. My 7-year-old's review was, there's so much talking, and a 2.5-hour movie that does not feel like it needs to be 2.5 hours. I say that about so many movies these days where, just like cut it down. This feels like about a 207 movie. That's about how long it should have been. And yeah, the tonal shifts just kind of all over the place. I mean, so you hire Kristen Wiig, who's a comedic actress. She's done a couple more serious things, I know, but that's still what people know her. And I think it's fair to say during the first, hour and a half, she's playing a comedic part of this very Minerva, this very sort of, nervous, awkward young scientist who ends up through the magic wish stone sort of absorbing Wonder Woman's powers and gets gradually more caught up with it. And we're trying not to be too spoilery here, since we know it's early and a lot of people haven't seen it. But yeah, I like Kristen Wiig, but as a character, that just didn't work for me. She didn't work for me.
She kind of felt like a callback to Guy Pearce's character in Iron Man 3, or Jim Carrey's the Riddler in Batman Forever, or even Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman to a small extent.
Yeah, she reminded me a lot of the Michelle Pfeiffer characters. Just very nervous and unsure of herself, and then she gets powers, and there's not as much of a quick turn of going into full villainy. But yeah, some people I've heard have complained about some of the actions and CGI and like the wire work not looking terribly convincing. Did anybody feel that? I think Andy, you said something about that.
Yeah, I felt, I mean, it really hit me just in like the first actual action scene, right? right at the beginning, right after the kind of intro sequence, the scene in the mall. That's when it first hit me. Like, oh, this is like, yeah, a Richard Donner Superman movie. It's goofy and over the top, and that kind of worked, but it just moved so fast, and it was kind of hard to keep up, and all of the action looked really stiff and kind of floaty and stilted, and I just wasn't buying it, and that kind of carried over through the rest of the movie. There are some really cool action sequences, um, but a lot of it just felt sort of forgettable or awkward, like it was somebody's first time doing these kinds of stunts and stuff.
What did
Yeah.
you guys think about bringing back the Chris Pine character? And again, people have seen the trailer, so that you know that he's in it. You know, obviously she was her lover who died during World War One in the first movie, and we won't get into exactly how he comes back, but I wasn't terribly convinced about the way he came back. Again, I'm not trying to reveal exactly how it happens, but Bob, what was your take just about bringing him back?
I
My feeling was, why do we need him here?
Yeah, well, that's one thing, because I think he was brought back. I think it's a little bit of fan pandering, but the thing that bugged me about it when they brought him back, then they spent all this time with him, walking around Washington D.C. and he's going, oh, oh, oh wow, look at all these advances they've made in the last 60, and I'm thinking, okay, we know that. Cut. Let's get on with the movie.
Yeah, there was tons of that of him, the fish out of water, because it's supposed to be about
Right.
65 years in his timeline between what's happened. So of course it's funny to us because we're seeing this technology and closed caption TVs and stuff that's like almost 40-year-old technology that is seems antiquated to us, and Alec and Andy probably even before your time. And he's all freaked out and bedazzled by it. And yeah, a little of that went a long way, and a lot of it went a short way.
Yeah, the thing that got me, you know, Andy and Alex were, comparing it to Richard Donner, the Superman. To me, part of it was like, and I wrote this in my review, Patty Jenkins was possessed by Joel Schumacher.
Oh, I'm not sure if that's an inspiration or an insult. How it
It wasn't meant as a compliment, no. It was, and I almost wrote the one thing I didn't write in my review, which I'd written down and then took it out because it was Wonder Woman, that the only thing that were missing were nipples on her breastplates, but I decided, no, let's not go that far.
I don't think the audiences were going to be down with Wonder Woman with high beams. Yeah.
Right.
So interesting story about Patty Jenkins, the director, and I think she's also a co-writer and co-producer on this film.
Yeah.
She's getting a lot of press because she got like tons of money to make this movie. They weren't sure if they were going to bring her back. And then the sort of the optics of not bringing back this big high profile female director. And so she ended up getting like $9 million, which is supposed to be like a record for a female filmmaker. I'm happy for her. She got an interesting story. Her first feature film, or one of her very first, was Monster, starring Charlize Theron around 2001-ish.
Yeah.
Charlize Theron ended up winning an Oscar for that. And but Patty Jenkins, you'd think, directing this successful movie that wins an Oscar, that she'd get a lot of opportunities, and she didn't. She kind of floated around Hollywood, didn't direct any more feature films for a long, long time. And supposedly was up to direct one of the Thor movies, and it fell through, I think, over creative differences, as they say. And then finally was brought in to do Wonder Woman. And so she's, really kind of waited for a long, long time for her shot. So I'm proud of her for making the first movie and then, sticking to her guns and getting paid for the second movie. I think that really speaks well of her character. I just think, she kind of lost her mojo between the first and second movies. I mean, I think she was really dialed in with, here's what this character should be about. Here's where her place in the pantheon of heroes should be. And it just was on like a laser. And here it's just tonally, it's just seemed all over the place. Alex, since you seem to like the movie most of the five of us, do you agree or disagree with that statement?
The movie was a little schizophrenic, and I do agree it's overly long. It probably needed to be cut by about 15 to 20 minutes. You asked about Pine earlier, and I wanted to think about how I can say this without being spoilery. but I found it really problematic, the relationship she had with him in this movie, because she's essentially committing rape. I mean, I'm not trying to make light of it, but
and we
really
don't
analyze it. That's true.
Yeah, we don't want to give away why that is. So the whole thing of how he comes back is just a real head scratcher. And yes, there's some icky questions about free will. You'll see when you see the movie what we're talking
I brought
about.
it up to my wife after the movie, and she's like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Like, why are you fixated upon this?" I'm like, the movie moved me. I cried a few times in it. Like, I found it to be hopeful in a lot of regards, which is good for where we're at right now. And maybe I let that hopefulness sway me, in my opinion of the movie. But I had to overlook some ickiness to get there.
Yeah. Bob or Andy, what did you guys think about Patty Jenkins' direction?
Well, like I said, at times she was possessed by Joel Schumacher. I mean, she wanted to make show the 80s, so it was rather garish, and like I said, it was kind of just, it sort of reminded me of one of those the 80s Batman movies after Tim Burton left.
Okay. Andy, how about you?
Yeah, it just didn't feel very sure-footed. I mean, yeah, I think maybe she got a little overly focused on like trying to bring back that 80s feel and that kind of hokiness, and kind of got lost in that and lost track of, telling a convincing or compelling story or getting, believable performances or action out of it.
When you get down to it, she's made this multi-million-dollar update of the monkey's paw, and that's what basically the movie was.
Yeah, for those who don't understand the reference, so there's this
classic short story written in 1902.
But so which has been used in various iterations in movies over the years, is they find this ancient stone where you can make a wish, but there are negative consequences to having your wish granted. And without giving too much away, you can probably guess that's how like the Chris Pine character comes back. We haven't talked about the villain. The main, none of those movies with two villains. Kristen Wiig is Minerva. The main villain is Pedro Pascal, better known as the Mandalorian. What did you guys think of him as a villain? I don't know. I mean, I thought he did a great acting job, but just the whole concept of his powers and how that plays out, yeah.
He was very weak. I mean, he was weak. He was kind of whiny's not the right word, but just, it was like putting a tiger up against a pussycat, between Wonder Woman, who, by the way, did you realize, I don't know if anybody's realized this, but in two movies, she's never been called Wonder Woman. She's always Diana.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I didn't write about this in the review, but I like that, because I mean, I would hate to be sitting through a movie where everybody's going, "Hey, Wonder Woman, hey, Wonder Woman." I like that. Her name's Diana, and that's what everyone calls her.
Right.
But that's getting back to Pedro Pascal. I thought he was sort of weak. He was over the top. I mean, he was sort of reminded me of Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey from the Batman movies. That over the top performance that was just too broad.
Yeah. Alec or Andy, anything to say on that?
I could jump in real quick. I actually thought Pascal was really good in the movie, and I actually liked all four of the primary performances in the movie: Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Kristen Wiig, and Pedro Pascal. I thought they're pretty much the reason to see the movie. His character, what's his name, Maxwell Lord, kind of reminded me of like a better looking Donald Trump. He's like a TV shyster who's obsessed with gaining power while having financial problems. So like a good looking version of Trump who sort of has a soul.
Andy?
I was less high on the character of Maxwell Lord himself, but I really loved Pedro. His performance, I thought it's rare for a movie to kind of go in both directions of like goofy, cartoonish villain and like sympathetic human villain. And Pedro really goes like 100% for both, which is kind of a rare, two-handed feat. And I thought he was, just a ton of fun, regardless of which one he was dialed into. So, I mean, yeah, he was absolutely the highlight for me, Pedro.
Yeah, and for those, he plays this like oil tycoon figure who's sort of been just faking things all along, and then he encounters the witch stone, and things kind of go from there. I don't know. I thought he as an actor was fine. I just thought conceptually as a villain, again, not to give too much away, but like he's not a physical villain. He doesn't fight with his fists or eye beams or rays or anything like that. It's the wish power is kind of how he gets things done. And as Alex said, it's almost more like he's almost like a media mogul shyster guy than anything else. And how much that was intended as a real caricature of President Shyster Trump, we'll let people decide for themselves. Anything else you guys wanted to say about the movie? Strong reactions? I don't know. My main thing was I was just let down, maybe just because I was a huge fan of the first one. I thought it was the best movie of that year. I think I liked it even more than the Avengers movie that came out that year. So to me, it was sort of like it fell so far from so high is why I don't think it's a bad movie. I definitely have parts about it I really like. Just tonally, just kind of sprayed the field.
Sorry. I have a buddy online who said he thought it was worse than the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, which I think is insane and hyperbolic.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. It's a fun throwback to the 80s. The action scene in the mall I thought was fun. It kind of reminded me of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Commando. I enjoyed the whole production.
Yeah, I actually thought it had more in common with Schwarzenegger's like 90s family movies than any of his action movies. But
Turbo Man or something.
yeah. But I still enjoyed it. It wasn't something I got a ton out of, but it was something to throw on during the holidays, kind of a fun little escape.
Okay.
I liked it, but it's not a movie I'm going to rush out to see again. And it took me an hour or two, but I finally I didn't realize this till my son told me, but I'm able to get HBO Max for free because of our cable system and stuff. So it took me an hour last night, to finally sign up for it and get through all the hoops and all the bells and whistles. But yeah, I'm not going to rush out and watch the movie again. Maybe in several months, in a year, I'll do it. But it was fun, but that was about it. Fun and frivolous.
Yeah. I happened to, when I was cleaning up my office the other day, came across old screeners, and I came across the one for the original Wonder Woman. So I think I'm going to pop that in just to remind myself what a really good Wonder Woman movie looks and feels like. All right. Well, thanks for you guys. Appreciate you being here. We enjoy doing these talks, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you. Bye.
Thanks.
Happy New Year.